when they did that in our lifetime, literally on TV in front of everyone, and I felt like no one cared, it made me very disaffected.
Imagine reading about what happened to Patrice Lumumba and you're a leader of a country where you're just about to start some revolutionary shit and they say, we chopped him up in pieces and dissolved his body. What's going to happen to you?
And there's enough evidence to suggest that most of the people he killed were black.
Welcome to part 2 of my reaction to the King's Monologue's visit to the Drazzy Show. Let's get into it.
Degrade and use negative narratives to degrade the African contribution to history or any kind of contribution to mankind or the evolution of mankind. Why do you think they go out of their way to do that? What is the purpose?
I think there's two possible I think there's two mentalities that could lead to that end result. The first mentality is the common one that we confront, and that is what I call, and don't quote me on this because it goes outside, but I call it white male insecurity. And you get a lot of that, where it's just they feel very insecure. There's something about black people that they find threatening. They feel inferior, and so they cook up all of these excuses and these reasons as to why them, persecuting, lying about, being aggressive against black people is justified. And essentially it's because they feel very fragile in their position. They feel that their position as the dominant aspect, I can't say race or species because it's neither, but the dominant aspect of society comes under threat, is placed under threat with black people, and so they end up being like that. And that's I think that's the common one, where you get on the internet with people, you have to put negative comments at or start an argument about a subject they know nothing about, chime in on ancient Egypt even though it's got nothing to do with them, etc., etc. Most of that is white male insecurity, and that can be extended, by the way, to partially whites, such as Hispanics or even Asians. Sometimes they're like that, but it's all the kind of same. It's all got the same birth point, The second mentality that leads to that is when people just know too much about history. They know too much. They know enough to know. We need to
keep this one up.
Nip this in the bud. Yeah.
It's so funny. You remind me of that famous Richard Pryor skit. You seen that skit?
He had his special back in 1977. There's a scene. They only allowed him to do 5 shows. In fact, they were rather ignorant because it took them 5 shows to realize what the brother was really doing. Richard Pryor, there's a scene where he goes in to the pyramids.
Professor, I got it open.
And he is carrying the bags of the archaeologists and the anthropologists who are of European descent. And they're talking amongst themselves about what this find is and its importance, the greatness of it.
This can't be, man. What? You know what this is? What is it, brother? It's the Book of Life.
And Richard Pryor is in this temple looking all around. And he begins to say, but all these people are black.
These were all black people got down. Wait a minute. There ain't nothing here about whitey. This is us, Jack.
It's humorous, but what Richard Pryor is actually talking about is that, these are black people in these pyramids, and these are the people that built these pyramids. He's saying, wait a minute.
Wait till the brothers hear this. Buddha. I'm gonna get this book out of here, baby. This tells the real tea. Buddha, control yourself, don't you see? What you mean, Jack? Look at this.
And then all of a sudden, the camera begins to show the anthropologists of European descent, and they start to nudge each other because they realize, hey, the guy carrying the bags is looking around and he's learning some things in here. So very quietly, you see them backing out of the pyramid, right? And Richard Pryor is still there talking about how great the pyramid is. And then all of a sudden, they show you the door close, and all of a sudden the scene goes black. Which means that was the blackout on the information for black folk to understand their history.
What is your views on Ibrahim Traoré?
Okay, so I took a really strong backseat to the whole political thing. I'll tell you when Libya got invaded and they, unalived Gaddafi, most of his family, they unalived a large proportion, a majority of the indigenous black population, called them foreign mercenaries, and they gave the country to the foreign terror groups. You know, the demographics of a country like Libya is very confusing to a lot of people. So Libya is a nation that historically has had two major genocides within the last 100 years. It had one under the Senussi Wars, which was basically Mussolini entered there and basically, I think he decimated a massive amount of the population, like a number of the population was basically reduced, I think by 1 million or something like that. And it had a small population to begin with as well. So this was a massive impact. And there's enough evidence to suggest that most of the people he killed were black. The supporters of the Senussi family were. The Senussi family themselves were black indigenous Libyans. And then the recent one with Gaddafi, who aligned himself with, you know, the African cause and aligned himself with the African population. And he himself was an African, but he's an African that also understood that a large proportion of his phenotype came from foreign sources, but he also understood that he carried African blood, and he was proud of that. So when they did that in our lifetime, literally on TV in front of everyone, and I felt like no one cared, it made me very disaffected. In fact, that was one of the things that just made me, like, with all of my kind of campaigning and learning history, and that was like, it just completely knocked the wind out of my sails. I was like, I am done. I'm done. I'm not talking politics. I'm not reading politics. I just can't with this world anymore. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, when that happened, it knocked the wind out of my sails. And I only think I was able to come back very recently after having a bit of time away. And do you know what I mean? Just like, okay, cool. So going to your question about Ibrahim Traoré, I'm not into the politics anymore. I used to read New Africa like every day. Like, I loved reading New Africa. I'm not into the politics anymore. But from the noises that I've heard, he looks like he's on that same trajectory. Hopefully not same end, but same trajectory as, Sankara.
In 1983, 33-year-old army captain Thomas Sankara seized power in Burkina Faso. He banned luxury cars for officials, sold off the government's Mercedes fleet, and replaced them with bicycles. He redistributed land from the elite to farmers, built schools, and vaccinated millions. When the IMF came knocking with loans and strings attached, Sankara said no. Debt is a new form of colonialism, he warned. He renamed the country from Upper Volta, a relic of French rule, to Burkina Faso, land of honest men. But that honesty came at a price. In 1987, he was assassinated in a coup led by his closest ally. Foreign loans resumed, reforms reversed, and France welcomed the new regime.
Thomas Sankara, his predecessor, the great, and I always said, like, if you're going to talk about people that have inspired me more than anyone in this world, one of them is on my shirt at the moment, Tupac.
Yeah.
The other one is Thomas Sankara. I'm always like, I feel like we share an ancestor.
Bro, you know, it's funny you say that about Thomas Sankara, because that's how I feel about Ibrahim Traoré. There's something about him that I just gravitate towards him in a way where it's like, I can't even describe it in words. It's an emotion where it's like, I really hope you do it, bro. Yeah. I really hope you do it, and I really hope they leave you alone. Could have been 16 attempts on his life since in the past 2 years. 16 attempts. And you know those are foreign people that are trying to take him out, because he's taking back the gold reserves. He's taking back their minerals, their produce. You know, he's built a massive tomato factory. He's given loads of like machinery to farmers so they can, you know, produce things at a more faster and larger rate. He's doing exactly what his country needs, and everyone loves him. He went to Ghana recently for our president's being sworn in, the inauguration, and he got more of an applause than our own president.
Of course he is. That Nigeria's.
I agree with everything they said. I just think a lot of people, as much as I love Thomas Sankara, as much as I love Ibrahim Traoré, and I believe they deserve all the credit they receive and more, I think not enough credit is given to the people of Burkina Faso. The name Burkina Faso means land of uncorruptible people, or land of people with integrity, land of men with integrity. And that just shows who they are as a people. Thomas Sankara got a lot accomplished. Ibrahim Traoré is getting a lot accomplished. But I don't think either one would have been able to do what they've done if it weren't for the people, the Burkina Faso.
Waste of space president who went to France the other day and signed a deal
for more money.
Africa don't even, Nigeria don't even deal with France. We deal with UK.
It's because the countries that are French, they're kicking the French out. They're now looking for
We're not a
allies.
francophone nation. Well, that's the thing. Why are you going there as a Nigerian? Like, we need to. Nigerians don't need no one's begging pop. These are corrupt, backwards, funded, also fearful presidents that we have. With no spine and no self-respect. Nigeria is constantly embarrassing me. I remember when, Zimbabwe kicked out the farmers and Nigeria was like, hey, come here. It's like, friggin' embarrassing, They always find a way of embarrassing me. They did the same thing with the Libya when they went to war against Libya. I think Nigeria was one of the few African nations that actually supported the war against Libya. It's like there's always some cookie cutter coon running, Nigeria that's gonna do the wrong thing. It's like
they need to keep Nigeria brainwashed. If Nigeria ever wakes up, it's a wrap.
Constantly embarrass me as a country.
But the thing is, do you think it's because these people have no room to wiggle out of whatever they've got themselves in? Because I'm sure some of these presidents, deep down, when they're laying down with their wives having pillow talk, I'm sure they're revolutionaries. But then when they get into those offices, they're like, all right, we owe this and we owe that. And if I say this, they're going to assassinate me. And if I say that, they're going to assassinate me. Or they might frame me as a pedophile, or they might frame me. You know the powers that be, the games that they play.
These white men are dangerous.
It's really difficult because I say all that and I'm really condemning. I'm really condemning of Nigerian governance as a whole. But then I also am condemning in the knowledge that Nigeria has had more presidents die in office than any other nation.
Did you know Nigeria's first military leader was tortured for hours before being brutally murdered in 1966? General Johnson Aguiyi Ironsi had just taken power after a bloody coup 6 months earlier. On July 29th, Northern officers invited him to Ibadan for what seemed like a routine military inspection, but it was a trap. The moment he arrived, they seized him and his aide-de-camp, Lieutenant Colonel Adekunle Fajuyi. They stripped both men naked in front of jeering crowds. Then they tied ropes around their bodies and dragged them behind a Land Rover through the dusty streets. For hours, the torture continued as onlookers watched in horror. Finally, they poured acid over Aguiyi Ironsi's battered body and shot him multiple times. His execution sparked the counter-coup that would tear Nigeria apart. The brutal murder destroyed trust between North and South, setting the stage for civil war. One assassination changed everything, creating ethnic divisions that still haunt Nigeria today.
That's what I'm saying.
By a long stretch. I think we've had 9 die in office. And I think the next nation closest to us has had 5. So
is that all time or since colonialism? Because that's crazy. The U.S. doesn't even have that much, and we're talking since 1776. Nigeria's only been independent since the 60s.
What, the next nation closer to us? I'm not sure. Probably Colombia or something like that.
I thought you meant as in next to you on the geographic.
No, as in like globally. We have 9. We've had 9 presidents die in office, and the next nation closest to us on the globe that's had that many die in office has had 5.
Colombia.
So like we're like they just routinely murk.
Are you including America? Because America, they murk their presidents on a regular basis.
But not in office.
What?
How many in office?
JFK was in office?
Yeah, but how many? How about him?
Lincoln was in office.
Okay, that's 2.
I swear there was more.
I don't think there's many more.
Lincoln, JFK. Is that it?
I think it's only been 4.
I don't think there's more than that, man.
Okay, there've been attempts.
Yeah, there's been attempts.
There was an attempt on was it Ronald Reagan? There was an attempt on his life.
Oh, please. Everyone wishes that attempt had happened. It didn't happen.
And that security guard jumped in and was like, "I'll take a bullet for the president." I was like, "Oh, whatever, man. It looks so staged."
Please.
But yeah, you know what it is. I really hope Ibrahim Traoré really. But then again, it's not like a computer game where there's like an end game where I really hope he makes it. Yeah. I just hope that he influences more and more people to the point where it will be too difficult and too obvious if they're all dying off one by one.
Well, this is the thing. I feel like now's the time to do that move. And I am very encouraged by the fact that people are getting behind him, because we've seen presidents do similar moves like Mugabe, and Africans not get behind him. Not enough anyway, certainly not enough.
But do you think it was due to how we received our media back then? Because if you look at the platforms, they were all owned by people who spewed negative narratives, whereas now with social media, we can see Ibrahim Traoré in first hand. We see him, like everything he does, we're seeing it in real time.
That's a great point, because what they did to Gaddafi, they're trying to do, or they tried to do, or they will try to do with Ibrahim Traoré. But we know that he's not some tyrannical dictator like we thought was the case with Gaddafi. So yeah, social media is changing the game.
So it's a lot more easier to not be fooled by false publications. You know what I'm trying to say?
You're right, but I think I feel like if you're gonna be fooled, you're gonna be fooled. I feel like we're always gonna be secondary to the mainstream media outlets and the people that control us. I have a suppressed channel, so I know that firsthand. You know, the social media outlets, you know, they can plaster on top of my videos fact checks and all of this stuff. If you're gonna be fooled, you're gonna be fooled. I kind of feel like that's the thing. Like, I kind of feel like the same people who, supported Mugabe will support Traoré. The same people that condemned him will find an excuse to condemn Traoré. Do you understand what I mean? I just feel like if you're gonna be fooled, you're gonna be fooled. It's really down to what the kind of message you choose to believe. I know that might sound harsh, but I've got limited patience for people who continually fall for the same
BS.
Yeah, continually fall for the same. Just like, kind of like, what do they say? Doing the same thing twice and expecting different results is
insanity.
Yeah. So if you're gonna continue to listen to these people, oh, they lied last time, but they're gonna tell the truth this time. It's like,
I'm sure you must have come across some of these old men who say, Africa, whatever country it is, Nigeria or Ghana, was better when the colonial masters were here. Now it is wasted. Wasted talent, wasted development. You know, I'm glad you said you got uncle like that. I'm glad you said, because I personally have an uncle like that. I don't think I do. Well, he never had the guts to say it to me, but I know for a fact there must be some, because I've heard people in Ghana say it. Grown men, uncles' age, say it. What are your views on those kind of people?
You know what? I'm patient with them. I don't know. I gotta say I love them. I'm never gonna get angry with them because they've lived through some shizzle. In reality, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've lived through some, like, you know, you lived through civil wars. You've seen. Do you understand what I mean? Like, you've been through the ringer, and then coming out the back of it, you're just seeing these despicable leaders. You know, and by the way, we were at the tail end that they lived through, like Babangidas and
what's Babangida?
So yeah, the old Nigerian presidents, Abacha, and some of them were awful. Remember, it was Nigeria, I think, back in the day that broke the OPEC agreement. So there was the OPEC agreement between the oil-rich nations. So it was like Nigeria, Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, the old school.
Oh wow!
The old rich Middle East.
Okay.
Yeah. So now the new rich Middle East is Dubai. The Gulf, they weren't even involved. They weren't even involved. These were the original oil-rich nations, and they had a coalition called OPEC, and it was Nigeria that broke. And basically, they said, we're gonna fix our prices. Like, they're gonna make sure that our people are sorted out. All of that. And obviously the CIA went in there, probably did some pew-pewing. And then Nigeria was the first to break that agreement.
What did they do?
They just sold the oil at the cheap price to USA. Just that. I'm guessing they had no choice, because otherwise, why would you do that? Because it was a stupid thing to do. But this is just like the history of our nation. And if you're a Nigerian person, you're just seeing.
You've lived with it.
You've seen these things unfold. You're kind of like, I get that they have zero faith in Nigerian self-governance.
I mean, I think that goes back to the education, because if you're not seeing the whole, or they're not seeing the whole picture, they're just seeing the end results, right? They're just seeing how Nigeria is today or in recent times. And when it comes to history, they've been given history. All Nigerians, or most Nigerians, just like most Africans and most black people around the world, have gotten their education from the colonial education system or slave education system, Western education period. So they don't learn about the time when Nigeria was self-governing, or the Benin Empire, things like that. So they see colonialism and the Western world right now as the peak, not knowing that Africa and many African civilizations have passed that, and we are not only capable of getting to where they are now, but far exceeding that if only left alone, and we're not taught that history.
Which means that was the blackout on the information for black folk to understand their history. This is what Richard Pryor was dropping on us in 1977.
And man in his blackness did walk the earth, making medicine, they discovered type. These were all black people got down. Wait a minute. There ain't nothing in here about whitey. This is ours, Jack. Wait till the brothers hear this. I'm gonna get this book out of here, baby. Man, they was getting down. This is it, brother. Everybody gonna know about this. This book, we can change the history. Civilization will be changed. Yeah.
This is what actually has happened. Richard was telling us, this is what has happened to us. Because as you become conscious and brother becomes conscious, and as a community we become conscious, the Europeans who know this are beginning to realize. So they're trying to shut the door on us.
I can't imagine what it would have been like to live in that time when all of those African nations were gaining independence, and then all of those revolutionary leaders just get taken out one by one.
That's actually
Touré, Nkrumah,
Patrice Lumumba,
they just all get taken out one by one.
Since 1963, more than 22 African presidents have been assassinated, and many of them died after refusing to bow to colonial powers. Again and again, France directly or indirectly is linked to these killings.
These white men are dangerous.
Here's the list. 1963 Sylvanus Olympio, Togo, murdered after rejecting the CFA franc and demanding economic independence. 1966 Johnson Aguiyi-Ironsi, Nigeria, assassinated after pushing to unify his country. 1969 Abdirashid Ali Shermark, Somalia, shot after calling for Somali unity. 1972 Abeid Karum, Zanzibar, advocated socialist reforms, cut down. 1975 Richard Ratsamandrava, Madagascar, sought to end foreign interference, dead after 6 days in power. 1975 Francois Tombelbey, Chad, posed French political control. 1976 Murtala Muhammad, Nigeria, bold critic of Western interference. 1977 Marine Ngouabi, Congo-Brazzaville, assassinated in suspicious crossfire. 1981 Anwar Sadat, Egypt, killed after a controversial peace treaty. 1987 Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso, the revolutionary who defied France, gunned down in a coup. 1989 Ahmed Abdallah, Comoros, murdered amid external meddling. 1993 Melchior Ndadaye, Burundi, the nation's first elected Hutu president, killed within months. 1994 Juvenal Habyarimana, Rwanda, his plane was shot down, the spark of genocide. 1999 Ibrahim Traoré, Niger, shot during a coup. 2001 Laurent Desire Kabila, Congo, challenged Western exploitation, assassinated in his office. 2009 João Bernardo Vieira, Guinea-Bissau, gunned down by soldiers. 2011 Muammar Gaddafi, Libya, brutally killed after NATO intervention. 2021 Idriss Déby, Chad, killed in battle against rebels. These assassinations weren't accidents. They destabilized nations, fueled civil wars, and kept Africa under foreign control.
That must have been terrifying, man.
Especially when you know these people, they always drop files accidentally on your desk. Because you don't find out through the grapevine, you get the actual files. Imagine reading about what happened to Patrice Lumumba, and you're a leader of a country where you're just about to start some revolutionary shit, and they say, we chopped him up in pieces and dissolved his body. What's going to happen to you if you live?
Imagine if in Burkina we refuse to fight, and we accept to submit to live in slavery. Tomorrow our children will grow up. They will ask questions. Were our parents cowards to leave us in slavery? Whether we are alive or dead, we will feel it. The coward is afraid. And the imperialists have understood. They try to instill fear in the leaders so that you become cowards. Because when you are a coward, all other vices can arise. They do everything to make us afraid. They come into our palaces. They threaten us directly or with veiled threats. Of course, we respond as we should. They always take examples. They will tell us, Thomas Sankara tried to do it like this, but where is he? He is dead. The Haitian president, he tried to do it like this. Where is he? He is dead. Gaddafi tried like this. Where is he? He is dead. These are the veiled statements made to us to instill fear. I think they haven't understood something. When we say the homeland or death, we shall overcome, it's not just a phrase, it has its full meaning. We are not afraid and we will never be afraid.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. I'll catch y'all in the next one.
So let's be honest, as black males have spent a larger proportion of history being the most desired men.
Well, our thing is history and culture. That is rubbish! I'm like, Ubuntu, get the fuck out of here, nigga.
To the point, there's a lot of FBAs out there who are really anti-African, and I find that weird